Hey you guys, thanks for joining us for episode 2 of Candid Conversations. Me here, Michael, with
Bill Ricksecker.
hello. Week 2. Excited to jump into this, but let's just start with Bill. What's something fun that you have been working on in this last week that is not work related? Because we know you like what you're doing with your ministry, but what's something fun?
I was going to say, it depends on what you call non-work related. Um, what am I working on? I think the only thing I can really say is the studying the Greek, because I was thinking about that today. I was going to brag to you about it before we got to connected here about how fun it has been, but I'm actually trying to use some of the words a little bit more. I was practicing a couple of them today at work, trying to instill those in my brain, but I think
Yelling at
that's
your
honestly,
coworkers.
yeah, and they just look at me. He's like, "Dude, you're weird." I was
Like,
like,
that's
"Well,
Greek to me. You
exactly,
bet it is. Yeah, that's right,
exactly."
man.
Yep. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I as far as fun wise, I mean, I haven't done too much. I haven't messed with my 3D printer. It's a little still too cold out, and I'm crying deeply inside that I can't ride the motorcycle yet. So I think honestly, I think that's the most fun that I've had all week.
Yeah, for myself, I've been swimming a lot more in the morning, so it's exercise and I have to get up and it's a lot of work. So like this morning I didn't go because I was like, I need at least one day where I can get around 8 hours of sleep, but typically that'll be the fun is like I get out of the house, I get to drive to the gym, I get to go, there's like a steam room and a hot tub. So like the whole like and everyone in the morning is like, I gotta go to work and I wear like nicer clothes because I want to like portray like I'm going to work too, but really I'm going home to eat oatmeal and read a book and then maybe take a morning nap and then I'm gonna work.
right
But
after the
I
right after the hard workout, swim, sauna, and everything. It's like, oh yeah.
I go home and rest. So I'm like, "Ugh." But from here, how about an update on what you're working on? So last time we talked, you talked about this Romans course, the material outline that you
Yeah.
were doing. What does that look like as far as what have you been working since we last talked?
Well, I hope, unless I come up with some more stuff to add, because this is actually my first, technically second course. I've made some more, but not along the same kind of theme, so to speak. But this course itself is kind of a new turn for me because I'm going from, if you've listened to some of the podcasts, I've done solo stuff and kind of like in a whole sermon style and also writing books. So my mind is in that mode. So to go from that to creating a course on the book of Romans, it's a huge challenge. Different type of writing style and information, but it's almost done. Unless anything else gets done, I'm just putting together some doctrinal vocabulary and a few other little charts to provide in there. And then once I get that done, we'll be ready to record.
Nice. And I always
Yeah.
thought Paul writes kind of tricky, which is like everyone, like you had mentioned when we talked, which your interview is in the show notes for those listening
Yeah.
and watching along, but how you really liked Paul. And I'm like, he is a great character, but when I was reading through the Bible, I was just like, why do we have to use such fancy language? And can we not, like, can we dumb it down a little bit? Because usually I'd be reading before I go to the gym.
Well, they
And
did
so
dumb
I'm
it
just
down. They
like,
made it English.
I know, and still, even then, and he's written so many books, which is great. He did a great job. But sometimes when I'm reading, I'm like, I understand this, and then next I'm like, I think you're just trying to say this, but we took like half a page to say it. That are like big words, but yeah. So I would imagine it's a trickier sort of course to jump into because you're having to take in mind all of that plus presenting it to your
Right.
consumer that you're trying to make it digestible but learn and like not take away from the original intent.
Yeah, and I mean, if I was to make it, if I was to go through the fullness of Romans, I honestly don't even know how long it would be. I've had to shrink it, kind of an overview. So the goal of it is really to present the gospel, help people to understand that, so that way they can articulate it and go out and profess it to others, which I think I mentioned that in our last little connection. But I also am trying to focus on some doctrinal teachings in there, so that way the student, whoever takes the course, consumer, whatever you want to call yourself, um, they'll be able to read and understand, oh, yes, this verse, it is this doctrine here, which can be helpful in your personal reading, personal growth in faith, but also when you're in conversation with others. And they're bringing up something that's contradictory, and you say, well, you got to go back to this doctrine here. It's like, well, that's unbiblical. It's like, here's the verse. So, yeah, that's pretty much the focus of it.
Cool. For myself, last time we talked, I was trying to launch that darned inside member email list. I said I hadn't posted it yet. I did post it by like 9 p.m. So I had Eden sitting in my corner chair watching TV, like whatever shows we watch, like, let's make some more images, post it. So it was great I posted it, but then no one joined, which isn't a huge surprise really, because I just have that sort of luck with social media. So the first feeling was just like, man, I spent like 2 months, really like a good solid month, focusing on like these emails and figuring out like, what am I going to offer? How can I connect everything? So I think the initial was like, oh man. But then also like, I'm used to this, Michael. This kind of stuff does not come easy. So then it's like, okay, I spent this week I'm supposed to be pushing it out like each day, but I find when I'm not promoting someone else, because I feel like I'm obligated when you're on the show, I'm like, I've told you I'm going to promote you. So like I set myself to that. But this week I'm like, I'm still having podcast interviews, editing, trying to do that. And I'm like, Michael, you're supposed to be talking about yourself. And I'm like, I like talking and I like myself, but it's so much harder. I'm like, do I need a video saying why they should join? No, I don't. I'm like, yes, actually you do. But I think the main thing was Wednesday, I came out with an episode that I'm going to have on my Spotify. If you didn't know, when you have a podcast, at least now with Spotify for podcasters, it'll say, which episode do you want us to push first? As far as like, say someone comes to Fisher Philbrick, the show, or CC412 podcast, then it'll say, the creator thinks you should start here. And I always just said, use the most recent one, because I'm like, I don't know what I want people to hear first. So this episode I created was giving an update on like, okay, here's where I started. Here was the business. Here's what I got to. Here's when I failed that business, came back to this. Here's everything within the inside member. So that at least was good. And it was fun to talk again, just nonstop. And I was like, wow, Michael, you had some good things to say. And I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
But what's your plan for this next upcoming week?
Work on Romans. I think that's pretty much it. Because once I get that workbook done, I'm just writing it up in Google Docs. Then I'll begin recording and work on actually making a custom design workbook instead of just basic text. But I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think I really can't think of too much else. My days are pretty basic. It's kind of a go to work in the factory, come home, do writing, do some reading, rinse and repeat kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah, for myself, it'll probably be the same of try to promote and figure out like how to push it in a good way, the inside member thing where, I don't want to ever come across as like too pushy, but then even in the episode, what I shared at the very end was like, I'm kind of taking things from like the mentor who I have and the people who are above me. So I'm like, if you don't want to join for the free stuff, like look at what I'm doing, because I'm trying really hard to copy from the people who are like doing things really successfully. And I'm like, and then you can copy from me. And I don't know. So it's just a lot of like figuring out how do I go about doing that? But then also I've got a ton of podcasts to edit. So that was kind of the new thing. Like each day I'm trying to get like one edited, and I already have 2 scheduled for coming up. So that I learned when I start scheduling them, then it gives me like the momentum of like, I have 2 already that I'm ahead on, which I'm not, because they were over a week ago that I talked to them. But I think that's my new thing is I'm going to try within a week from when I talk to you, I want to follow up and say, we have your specific date your episode's coming out. So it's more of like on the back end thing, but I need to hold myself to something because I do not really like the editing process all too much. A recent guy I talked to, he'll come out soon on the podcast, but he talks about video editing. He's like, I just really like it, getting into it. It's so like, he mentioned everything that I dislike about it. I'm like, I don't want to sit still and like go second by second and fix things. And it is like, when you hear the finished product, I think it's well worth it. But that for me is like a pain point where
Oh yeah,
eventually I will hire someone to
yeah.
edit my stuff.
And it is kind of cool, but yeah, it's so ongoing. Like I remember years ago. I think I mentioned this at some point, but I started my degree in game design, then went to digital media, and then got into theological stuff. But when I was in the game design or digital media, one of those, I was using some video editing, and one of our final assignments was to make a video, and it had like requirements and everything. So I had all my source, my footage and everything, and going through that, like I said, second by second, because there was some stuff that I had to cut out of that. But I mean, you can make really cool effects with it. Like when you think about that, like if you're putting a music to it, you can put some sort of effect like flashing, or make the screen go black, or some sort of cool transition. So I mean, just seeing all that come together, I mean, it could be fun. Or you could be like Michael that doesn't like it.
Yeah, but then you learn you still got to do things you don't like. So
True. Yeah.
within that, I've learned all the shortcuts that I know. So that's what I always enjoy. Like, what is the quickest way I can do it, even though it is going to take me a while.
Yeah.
But from here, to kind of close this out, I asked kind of two questions in one. So you can either connect these or go with it how you want. But what's something that you've learned recently that you can share with us? And then you can kind of turn that into encouragement to leave us with, or, take two different things. Because what I've been seeing is like each day I am learning something new, and it can be either personally or within your, own business. But I think that's fun to share with people of like, yeah, we're working hard, but part of building these businesses is like we're always having to learn new things.
Right. Well, in regards to the business aspect, I was playing with a pen, just dropped it. In regards to the business aspect, it's the it's the shift of the developing the course, learning to write differently, so to speak. So I mean, it's still a little bit of a challenge because I still want to go back to sermon/book writing that I would do. But what's fun about that, and I agree with what you're saying there. We learn something new every single day, and that's the thrill of it. We spend so much time, getting bogged down. Like a friend of mine recently shared something, bad juju that happened to them. Not exactly in its proper context, but something happened to them the other day, and they're all bummed out. But within that particular event that happened, I was like, there's always something you can learn from these things. I mean, even the lowest of points, it's a learning curve. It's exciting because, you've just learned one way of not to do it, whatever that might be. So, just look towards the future of, yes, I failed today on this particular thing, but 5 years from now, it's going to be different. 10 years from now, it's going to be better. So that's what gives me a little excitement in those moments.
Awesome. Yeah, for myself, I feel like learning that it's okay that a launch doesn't go well, and that, with this one in particular, I was so focused on working on the thing that you do have to step out and then plan and get people excited for it, which is like, it makes sense as you know it. Like, yeah, I need to be getting people hyped up, even though like I'm not ready to be hyped up because I still have so much work to do. But that is
got a long list.
yeah. So that is something. And then with the other like YouTube show I'm going to be starting with the small business community, is like people do seem interested in it, and I've got some things lining up with that and kind of putting it together. And I think that has been encouraging because I'm like, I think I found something that the community is actually gonna like, which
Right.
I don't know. It's always like learning, each community is different, but when I'm coming to it now, I'm like, Michael, this makes so much more sense. You're gonna have them talk about their business and their journey and like more promotion. So that's when I talk to the new people, I'm like, by the way, we have this thing called small business community. And then I just talk about the YouTube show because I'm like, I feel like that's the best thing right now, even though for me, I think the Facebook group could be really cool, but it's still like has to learn how to run itself.
Right.
There's still a lot to learn with that, but those are the kind of things I'm learning. And then, yeah, kind of with the encouragement as well of like, it's okay if your initial launch is not what you thought it would be. Someone had just messaged me like he was launching a new product and he's like, no one bought it today. Like it flopped. I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna write back to him. But I feel like that is so common and it is like so disappointing because no one else really knows how much time you've put into this or how many years you've been looking forward to, whether it's launching a new business or the product. But I don't think that's a sign that you failed or that you are, terrible or it's not going to sell, but that, it's all right. It's disappointing, but you just have to keep going forward. And that's what I'm having to see. And I'm kind of used, as I mentioned, like at this point, I'm like, oh, okay, I don't expect any of this to be easy.
Yeah.
But anything else, Bill? Final thoughts?
No, I mean, as far as that encouragement, keep on chugging. I mean, you've shared a lot with me. I've seen a lot that you're doing, and just in general, I mean, there's a lot of potential behind it. It's just a matter of, getting those ground roots in. So.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Bill. And thank you to all of you who have been watching along. I'm trying really hard to look you all in the eye by looking right there. So I'm going to watch it back and be like, why do I keep looking everywhere else? But that's something I'm working on.
And
but
as I can see, it's like I'm not even looking at the camera. I'm looking at you on the screen.
I know. So. But have a great rest of your day. We'll check back in with you next week.